Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to start by stating that I'll be sharing my time with the member for Beaches East York. I will begin by acknowledging that this House rests on the unceded, unsurrendered Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory. I will also take the opportunity to thank the people of Fredericton for putting their faith in me once again. Waliwin, merci du fond du cœur. It was certainly a journey to return to this House. Our paths to this place are unique. We all have had our battles, we learn, we grow, we keep moving forward. I want to congratulate my fellow members of Parliament on their election and for the privilege to stand in this House to represent Canadians. I also want to congratulate the Honourable Mary Simon on her historic appointment and the remarkable career that led her to the throne. She makes me feel humble and proud to be Canadian. Grateful for my home on native land. This we must acknowledge each and every day as the foundation of reconciliation. As Governor General Simon said, this land acknowledgement is not a symbolic declaration. It is our true history. In each of your own ridings, I encourage you to seek out the truth and to learn about the lived realities in First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities. Although each community is distinct, we all share a desire to chart a way forward together towards reconciliation. I was looking for leadership on reconciliation in the speech from the throne, and a moment of education for those who need reminding of their treaty relationship, or the ones eager to find ways to improve their allyship. Our Governor General is telling us to keep talking, keep learning and sharing, reaching out, building bridges, and doing the work. And there is still so much work to do. We see treaty rights met with violence in the East, legal and hereditary rights challenged in the West, a water crisis in the North, we have a housing crisis in communities and cities across this country, and we have ongoing investigations into former residential facilities. We have been faced with the horror of racism and systemic genocide time and time again. And as Mary Simon remarks, we cannot hide from these discoveries. They open deep wounds. It is imperative to our success and our collective well-being that we confront trauma in Canadian society. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada educates us about the intergenerational trauma that ripples through communities still today, of underfunded education and child welfare services, on discrimination. For anyone who was surprised by the discoveries of unmarked graves, read the TRC report, I implore you. The TRC also tells us about the work that has been done and what is ongoing. There have been significant growth and healing in ways that I have had the immense pleasure of witnessing. In children reclaiming traditional names, dancing and drumming, in seeing elders and residents share their knowledge to institutions seeking to decolonize. In better educational outcomes and increased capacity in health, science, and business, in Indigenous art and cultural expression. Since 2015, there have been effective Indigenous language revitalization projects in New Brunswick schools through Wolastoq Gow Ladaway-Wagan. These efforts prevented a prediction that the Wolastoq language would have died out by now. Gitajuwi Gilan, Majimide, Wakanen, Galodawekananen, Weji Skat, Sika Duhadawag. We have always have to use our language so we don't lose it. The speech from the throne was also read in Inuktitut. That is an incredible milestone for Canada that we should all be proud of. What I heard in the speech from the throne was the intention to ensure action on reconciliation, action on our collective health and well-being, action on climate crisis. These are also the priorities that I heard at the doorstep. I want to be able to return home to my constituents after the 44th Parliament with results. I know we all do. We have a huge responsibility to act right now in confronting the biggest challenges of our lifetime and for the generations to come. We have been listening to the youth who take to the streets every Friday, striking from school for the sake of our collective future. I can see in my mind all of the slogans and signs from the climate rallies over the years. There is no planet B. Our house is on fire. Change the politics, not the climate. The pleas for action. The speech from the throne declares that our Earth is in danger, that we must adapt, that we are well beyond the point of no return. We can no longer point fingers as to who is responsible or bicker over the steps required to mitigate the damage. All communities across this globe must prepare for what is to come. To the millions who have signed petitions, written letters, organized demonstrations, wrote policy resolutions, started divestment campaigns, you are making a difference. Your voices have pushed corporations to address their carbon footprints, develop sustainability strategies, and move away from single-use plastics. Renewable energy and electric vehicles have never been so accessible, and consumers are empowered to make responsible choices, making the market more competitive. You did this. Never doubt that actions, even the smallest ones, can have a ripple effect and change the world around you. Our government has committed to 30% protected coastlines and waterways by 2030, to more conservation in national parks, active transportation, green community infrastructure, ending fossil fuel subsidies, banning coal, and limiting pipeline expansion. I want Canadian kids to feel good about going back to school, about planning their futures. We need them to study engineering, science, sustainable agriculture, critical race theory. We need them to embrace their role in the transition that is underway. I want them to trust in their government and feel comfortable in our demonstrated actions. We need more aggressive timelines on decreasing greenhouse gas emissions, and I will be the first to admit that. We need to protect the oceans, whales, and other carbon-sequestering species, actively support biodiversity. We need to overhaul pesticide and herbicide use, move away from industrialized farming, and continue to ramp up renewable energy while empowering municipalities as ground zero for the transformation. We must also be prepared for extreme weather events, mitigate flooding, implement fire breakers, engage Indigenous knowledge, as we know too well that the impacts of the climate crisis are already severely affecting our lives, regardless of where we live or our loved ones living in this country. Mother Nature has a way of reminding us of her power, and this pandemic is no exception. In an excerpt from the speech, the pandemic has shown us that we need to put a focus on mental health in the same way as physical well-being, because they are inseparable. What led me here was the fight for mental health access in my community, for Indigenous youth, and for women, for mothers. The COVID-19 experience has compounded an already existing crisis. Currently in my home province, we have a fourth wave of the virus. We've also had ERs closing, healthcare workers on strike, reproductive rights continue to be restricted. 18,000 people in the Fredericton City Centre alone do not have access to a family physician. The federal government, along with provincial partners, need each other to fill these gaps now. Modernizing means investing in e-health, in human resources, in housing, in immigration, in addressing the opioid crisis, and focusing on prevention. Everything is connected, and without the basics for survival, no one can be successful. Retention of physicians and nurses starts with listening to them about why they are burnt out. Better data collection, planning, and strategizing can better distribute the resources we already have. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I am a class of 2019 Member of Parliament. After just 5 months of my political career, the pandemic hit. The world stopped, our children were out of school, workplaces shut down, and planes were grounded. All at once, it became abundantly clear that nothing else matters if we don't have health. I have spent the last 2 years speaking for my community and bringing their voices to this place to make change. Fredericton is an amazing place with informed and engaged citizens. Every time I speak with their voice in my ear. Their number one concern is access to health care. Despite the difficulties we face at this moment, I am more hopeful than ever. My message for Canadians today is one of strength and faith that there are better days ahead. I say this knowing the urgency in the change that is required and the too often felt disparity across this nation. I too have felt it, and you are not alone. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, the terms of the game have changed, and so have we. Looking throughout this chamber, across the aisles and in the wings, I know we are up to the challenge. It will take all of us, a strong, united government, a healthy, pragmatic opposition, and a real commitment to collaboration. Once again from the speech, confronting the hard questions will not always be easy or comfortable, and it will require conviction, but it is necessary. The outcome will be a sustainable, united Canada for you, for me, for our children, and for every generation to come. The message I heard, Madam Speaker, loud and clear, was unity and a commitment towards action, and that will always get my vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Merci.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Kenora.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I thank the member for her comments today. And she did mention climate action. I know that climate change is something that is very important to her, but I will note that the government is leading the G7 when it comes to emissions, and as I understand, has not reached a single climate target thus far, despite their attacks on Canadian industry and on Canadian energy in particular. So I'm just wondering if the member, I know she is new to the government, but I'm wondering if she can let the House know, let Canadians know given the failing grade that they have on climate change thus far, if they are planning to rethink their environmental strategy. Thank you.
The honourable member for Fredericton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for that question, and it's really nice to see him back in the House as well. I am a new member on the government side, and it's particularly, this reason that I came, because I want to be effective, I want to address the urgency in the climate crisis, and I want to be a strong voice for this government moving forward. I think it's important to note that our plan was given, the best grade as far as climate, addressing the climate crisis as far as all parties in this House. And so I think it's incumbent upon all of us to get behind that plan and work together to implement it and show real action for Canadians. Thank you.
Commentaire. L'honorable député, c'est Berthier-Masquinongé, c'est bien ça?
Oui.
Oui.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je remercie la collègue pour son discours. Écoutez, moi, je vais aller sur le même sujet parce que je suis très interpellé avec la stratégie libérale qui vise à plafonner les émissions du secteur pétrolier, alors que ce qu'il faut faire, c'est plafonner la production et éliminer graduellement les émissions totales. Et j'aimerais savoir, en tant qu'ancienne députée du Parti vert, comment elle se sent là-dedans, puis qu'est-ce qu'elle va faire de l'intérieur, parce qu'on a beau dire, oui, je voulais être là pour influencer les choses, mais ça prend des actions concrètes, et la planète n'attend pas. La Colombie-Britannique nous le dit présentement, et le pays entier nous le dit présentement. Donc, comment se tient par rapport à ça? Quelles sont les actions concrètes? Est-ce qu'on veut changer le plan libéral et faire une vraie action pour réduire les émissions de gaz à effet de serre? Merci.
Député de Fredericton.
Merci, Madame la Présidente, et merci mon collègue pour son question. Again, I'm here to push that urgency. I really believe that our timelines need to be much closer. I want to see, a 60% reduction in GHG emissions rather than the 45% that we previously committed to. So again, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to bring that passion for the environment, that urgency on action, and to bring a peace of mind to Canadians that there are strong voices on this government side that care deeply about what we need to do to protect the environment. And so I look forward for your collaboration on that piece, and it's incumbent upon all of us here to push those timelines and ensure action immediately. Thank you.
Mind the honourable member to address her questions and comments to the chair and not to the individual member. Questions and comments, the honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for her comments today. One of the most important things we can do as members of Parliament is protect seniors in our communities, to protect Canadians as we come out of this pandemic. And in my community, seniors are being impacted by the clawback that this government has put on GIS payments for guaranteed income supplements for seniors. Madam Speaker, you will know that these are seniors that are living in the poorest situations. They are the ones that are most vulnerable, often women who are most affected by this. And this very cynical failure to provide this guaranteed income supplement has been incredibly problematic for my community, for my members. And I'm just wondering why the government is not choosing to take the very easy steps to reduce that clawback and to give our low income and our vulnerable seniors the help that they need to get through COVID-19.
The honourable member for Fredericton has 1 minute to respond.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member, and again, so happy to see her in this House once again. Seniors are incredibly important to us in New Brunswick and in Nova Scotia. We have the oldest populations in Canada. This is an issue that we're hearing across the country, but I think part of it comes to, when the CERB was being laid out and people were applying to it, we were very clear with members within my own riding about what the implications of that would be. So I think it's important that we understand too that many people who did apply for the CERB would have actually been in the black as far as more money that they would have received over the last period of time than had they just stayed on the GIS. So I think it's a little matter of optics and clarification around information of these programs and benefits. And I look forward to supporting the member and having these conversations perhaps with her constituents, because I think it is a critical issue, and we don't want to see clawbacks, but we also want to see that our benefits are used to the way that they were intended. Thank you, Madam Speaker.